Let's bring in Jonathan Schanzer. He's the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy's Executive Director. Jonathan, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
This peace agreement has multiple phases. Phase one is the return of the hostages. Let's take this chat in phases. Do you think that Hamas is going to ultimately release the hostages? They will be home in the next 24 hours.
Folks in the region right now are pretty optimistic. In Israel, they're saying it's, 90%. That's what they're saying across the Arab world right now. We are trusting a terrorist organization to be held to its word. And we're trusting its terror sponsors, like the Qataris and the Turks and the Iranians, to stay to their word. If they want to thrust the region back into war, they have the ability to do that. But right now, it looks like there's a lot of international pressure led by Donald Trump to keep them to their word. So holding our breath.
It seems as though when it comes to phase two, which is having Hamas give up its weapons, give up political power in Gaza, that there are different perceptions of what's going to happen next. What's your take?
Sure. I think there are three big perceptions that we need to break down here. One, Donald Trump thinks that everybody's going to hold to this. He's talking about ending 3,000 years of conflict, and he is expecting everybody to do as he says and to listen. I don't know whether that's true. I think a lot of that is really just going to depend on how much pressure the president puts on these various actors. He's going to have to hold their feet to the fire. You got the Hamas terrorist organization thinking that if they can just hang on a little longer, buy for time, they may be able to stay in power in Gaza. That goes against the 20-point plan that Donald Trump has laid out. And I think everybody needs to disabuse Hamas of this notion. Right now, you can see they've got these guys with their weapons and their headbands and their masks, and they've deployed all over the Gaza Strip where the Israelis have pulled back from. That can't happen. In another day or two, we're going to have to deal with that. The Israelis don't want to deal with that right now because they want phase one to go through. Then there's what the Israelis think, which is they think that if Hamas stays and they're not abiding by the deal, that they can go back in. Donald Trump may not want them to do that. So you could see the friction building within these three different perspectives. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, and Prime Minister Netanyahu said when they announced this deal that we're hoping to do this the easy way, but if we have to do it the hard way, go back in, then that's what's going to have to happen. Is there a concern in Israel that perhaps that once the hostages are back and Hamas is not complying with what the president is expecting them to do in this phase two, then they can turn around to the international community and say, we gave the hostages back. What's going on here?
Yeah, and I think that is the concern. I think a lot of people, the reductionist view of this was, hey, they took your hostages. That's why you went to war. And now that you got the hostages back, just go home. Everybody wants this war to end. But you got to remember, this war was the beginning of a seven-front war that spread across the entire Middle East, right? Hezbollah, the Houthis, Iran, Syria, Iraq. All of these fronts, they're not entirely calm here right now. And so Hamas is just one small piece of this wider picture that the Israelis are still watching with some trepidation. Now, I do think that Donald Trump helped the Israelis get a grip on the region. I think Israel has the upper hand on every one of these seven fronts. But that doesn't mean that the war is over, according to Israel's enemies, and the Israelis are very aware of that right now.
And a lot of America's allies have said, okay, we're willing to work on peacekeeping, we're willing to work on rebuilding. Is there a concern that the attention, the follow-through might not be there, either from the administration or from U.S. allies?
Look, I think, Donald Trump's got a lot on his plate. President is in the middle of an economic war with China right now. You got the tariffs, the heat, the heat's just rising right now. I think he's going to want to pivot. You can't pivot. I know he's still looking at a Nobel Prize. The path to a Nobel Prize is staying engaged. But what really worries me right now is who we're relying upon. I think the Saudis and the Emiratis, they're good allies in the United States, and they want calm in the region. But you start looking at the Qataris and the Turks, these are guys that were sponsoring Hamas. They have been funding Hamas. They've been giving them a headquarters in their country. They've been on the side of Hamas throughout this entire war. Are we trusting them to keep the peace? I think we're taking a big chance here, and that's why I think the president needs to stay really engaged and to really hold these two countries in particular, hold their feet to the fire.
The Israelis and the Saudis were talking about normalization before October 7th. That upended everything, possibly played a role in October 7th. Do you think that they can resume those talks now that we're moving perhaps towards peace?
I do. I think there'll be probably some good news before that. We've been hearing some rumors out of the region that Indonesia might be next with the Abraham Accords, the world's most populous Muslim nation. You saw the leader get up at the UN, say some nice things about Israel. I think that may be the next move. And I think the Saudis, if they see that that is accepted more or less in the Muslim world, that might give them a little bit more comfort in taking next steps towards normalization. So a lot of exciting things also hanging in the balance right now. Dramatic, historic moments in the Middle East.
I think we're going to have this conversation, another conversation soon. Jonathan Schanzer, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.